Welcome to Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center. My name is Quentin Ring. I'm the Executive Director here. And welcome to Satellite of Lou, a tribute to the late, great Lou Reed. Thank you all for coming out. We have a great program tonight. I'm really thankful for our host, Azalea Snail, for putting it together. She'll tell you a little bit more about the program. Thank you to all of the performers that are here tonight. We have some really special people here. Just before we get started, I want to say a few words about Beyond Baroque. We are, as we like to say, a place dedicated to the possibilities of language. That means we support writers, and we support artists, and anyone really who's doing interesting things with language. We do that in a variety of ways. We have a workshops program. We have free writing workshops. Our Wednesday night workshop, poetry workshop has been running continuously since 1969. An amazing number of artists, writers, poets have gone through that workshop. We have a space here for performances. We have about 200 performances a year without the support of our community. So really please, I would ask you all to get involved with Beyond Baroque, whether it's signing up for our email list, whether it's coming to events, and most particularly, please consider becoming a member. Thank you so much.
I'll just do a quick intro. Thanks everybody for being here. Lou Reed was my neighbor in New York, and he's really the reason I moved to New York. And I just have like a real soft spot in my heart for all things Lou Reed. You know? So that's why we're calling it Satellite of Lou, in honor of course, one of his greatest songs, Satellite of Love. And just quickly, the program will be Mary Woronov, Dick and Jane Family Orchestra, and then Lovey Dove, and then Angie Bowie, which is really exciting. So thanks again.
Hey folks, I just want you to see this. My name is Jane. We have Dick and Jane Family Orchestra. Mary has been one of my best friends for 41 years, only. And so I made a film about her about 4 years ago. It's very short, and then she's going to come up. I also want to remind you, she'll be reading from this book, partially. She also wrote something for this show, actually. But you can order this on Amazon. It's an amazing book, Swimming Underground. It's about her life with Warhol. If you haven't read it, it's on Amazon. You must order it. And Mary's, of course, did a lot of movies and stuff, but her paintings are... So here we go, the fabulous Mary Woronov.
Okay. I am going to talk about Lou Reed, but this is not really about it. Part one. Sorry. There was, I was not a good girl. I had a very bad rat inside of me. There was only one way to shut my rat up, and that was to be around something even more enraged. At first, I thought this was impossible, but then I met my first drag queen, rat relief at last. Someone angrier than I was, and with a sense of humor about the whole thing. I felt calm, tranquil, as if I'd found religion. As long as I was around the queens, even my rat assumed table manners, cracked jokes, let other people talk. Pretty soon I was a drag queen junkie. Most of the people at Andy Warhol's factory found it amusing that I would rather hang out with queens than suck up to the stars or even get an agent. Everyone else assumed that it was drug-induced insanity, except for Lou Reed. He had the same taste for sleazy street scenes, tacky drag queens. When the queens weren't around, he would imitate them, making me laugh. Anyway, this is why in the dead of winter, in the dead of night, I was filling up on drugs and on my way across Greenwich Village and uptown to Andy's factory. That was his first place. I had to get my Selena's fix. She was incredible. She wasn't a floozy like Jackie. No, this was a complete Irish Catholic schoolgirl look. Natural red hair, gold cross at the neck, peachy, beardless skin, the same, and some of the most restricted manners that I had ever seen. She kept her eyes lowered, geisha style. Her pleases and thank yous were soft and articulate. Her wrists and ankles crossed every time she sat, really as if they had been tied. Most queens have great legs, and so did Selena's, but Selena's legs ended up into very large feet, which were jammed problematically, certainly with the aid of a hammer and chisel, into an extra pair of proper woman's pumps. Just the word shoe could make her hang her head in hopeless defeat. But instead, as I walked into the factory, Selena's was not there. Barbara Rubin had brought something called the Velvet Underground to Andy's old uptown studio. She knew that we were the only people in New York who hated Bob Dylan's nasal rebellion down on Maggie's Farm. The Velvets were more morose, more honest, and deeply depressing. They didn't talk about Maggie's Farm. They talked about trying to cop in the New York freezing rain. Getting high, that was better than sex and darker than any closet. Gerard worked up dances for us. He dressed me in black, brought me a whip, and convinced Andy to use us as a showpiece for the band. The band was not very flashy to look at. As a matter of fact, they just didn't care if you looked at them or not. I had my own pain that twisted my body in time to lose music. Personally, I fucking cried when they introduced Nico to the band later on. Her voice was good, but Lou, he used her like an instrument, he said. Great. But she looked pretty stupid, I thought. She looked like a model.
She sounded good.
She did sound good. And Andy and that day, and I thought she looked like a model. Then Andy announced that we were going to LA, the home of rock and roll. I assumed these California hippies would dance to Lou's music as if they had just found God. In New York, the audience would mimic shooting up, and then the cops would come, and then we would all have to go home. Or just go outside and wait for the man, completely oblivious to all tomorrow's parties and anything that they meant. The worst time for Lou was LA, the rock and roll capital of America. Cher told the news that we should have gone back to New York and practiced. Nice of her. I thought she should just shove her head up her ass. But Andy didn't say a thing, and Lou was paranoid that the California bands were going to steal his stuff from him. But instead, the only thing that happened was that the Mothers of Invention hired some brain-dead girls to dance on stage, mimicking Gerard and me. When we all started feeling depressed, our simple-minded driver tried to cheer us up. He drove us to Venice Beach. He drove us straight through the beach and into the water. We sat and looked at the ocean and sat some more. Finally, Lou said, "Can we go home now?" And Andy said yes. And on the plane, we all talked about how we hated rock and roll capital of the world and how San Francisco might be better and Los Angeles was brain dead. Back in New York, Andy was unfazed by our bad treatment in LA. His solution was to stay in New York and open his own disco, the Dom, on St. Mark's Place. This place was great. He showed his movies on the wall, blown up to 7 to 10 feet tall. Some scenes were endless loops that went over and over and over. He loved them. There was even a rumor that Andy made a movie of his only lover asleep in bed, and he played it all night long so that if he did wake up, he would see him there. His lover was dead, but this made him a little closer. In one of his movies, in another one of his movies, Gerard licked my boots endlessly while while I tried to forget the last time I stepped in New York dog shit. But the real turn-on was the whip dance that we made up, and the gigantic plastic syringe Gerard made love to on stage. Gay theater was strong, and these queens were not going back in the closet. They performed in the street, holding up traffic, and at Max's Kansas City in the dead of night. They performed when nobody was looking. I was positive they even performed in their sleep, but nobody ever slept.